This is From Destruction to Dignity with Janice Pons. Each week, Janice shares her wisdom to enlighten, educate, and advance the culture in America today. Janice Pons is a mother, author, and free thinker, and your host for our podcast this evening. Now let's join your host, Janice Pons.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. Come on in. Come on in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so glad that you're here. Thank you for joining in today. My name is Janice Pons. I am the host on this show, this podcast, From Destruction to Dignity. Clinical perspectives, spiritual truths. Tonight, we are going to, of course, provoke thought, bring awareness, and point people towards intervention in, at a minimum, the Constitutional Republic of the United States of America. You know, I still got this flag up and I still got this presidential seal up. Why? Because we're talking about issues that are pertinent to us as Americans, and we need our political leaders. We need our spiritual leaders. What would happen if we had the occupants of this place, this person right here that occupies that house on Pennsylvania Avenue, if we had that person that was really keyed in on some serious issues that affect us as Americans. But I'm telling you, the data is just staggering in terms of the increase of addiction, suicide, C-19 turned the world upside down. That thing that started over there in that Wuhan lab, and just ravaged our nation, ravaged the world. And so we're dealing with addiction levels being high. You know, we talked about fentanyl being the number one killer of adults between the ages of 18 and 45 in the nation, and the suicide rate amongst girls, the suicide attempt of girls in 2021 from 1 month to the next month for girls between the ages of 12 and 17 increased by 51%. And what we're going to talk about tonight dovetails into the dynamics that affect teenagers, adolescents, it affects children, and it definitely affects adults. So what we're going to dive into is one of my favorite topics. I have a great passion when it talks about addiction. That is my licensure, but you know, this is Janice talking as a citizen. This is all about education. I'm not here as a licensed clinician. I am here to provoke thought, bring awareness, and point people towards intervention through the process of talking about certain issues and to educate. Because when we do those three things, provoke thought, bring awareness, and point people towards intervention, therein lies a process of educating where we can learn from each other. We can learn from each other, and I love that. I love that. And so tonight we're going to look at, we're going to talk about the recreational cannabis and binge drinking connection. What you talking about, Janice? Connection. Is there a connection between recreational cannabis and binge drinking? Our nation, the Constitutional Republic of the United States of America, that's what this flag represents. This is what this office represents. The mental health issues, the addiction issues, the professionals that are called and appointed and anointed to help people that are dealing with binge drinking, alcoholism, cannabis use disorders, smoking weed every day. Well, now we can just smoke it on the streets. There's no such thing in some states of getting arrested because you have it. Okay. All right. Well, you know, back in the 70s when I was in high school, marijuana, the THC levels was 1 to 2, 3%. Now 12 to 15%. There are some substances that you can get synthetic. It's up to 34%. Whoa, man, that's some serious potency there. We're talking about becoming full-blown psychotic. So, after the passage of state laws that allow recreational cannabis use, binge drinking declined with those that were younger than 21. I wonder why. Did they decrease in one and increase in another? But I'm going to tell you who it increased with, the binge drinking, for those that were 31 and older. Yeah, 31 years old and older. Those are the ones I'm concerned about that we're going to talk about tonight and hone in on tonight. Adolescents who binge drink. What is binge drinking? Let's just back up. Let's frame this. Let's frame it. Binge drinking among adolescents is defined as having 5 or more drinks for men and 4 or more drinks for women at one time. Five or more for men, 4 or more for women at once. One setting, just guzzle it down. I think I've shared with you all, I've met 3 people in my career in the field that I'm in that drank 90 beers a day, every day. That's some serious drinking. Binge drinking in these groups of people that I just described, those that drink 4 or more a day for women, 5 or more a day for men, that pattern is associated with 3 things that affects a person's quality of life. It just will. You don't get exempt from it. I wish I could tell you that people do, but they don't. For adolescents particularly, we want them to be successful. We want our students to thrive. We want it. You know, I did a podcast 2-3 weeks ago about the low performance in terms of reading and math and the scores. We used to be number 1 academically in the world in the 60s and the 70s. Now, that's not the case. There's a level of illiteracy when it comes to reading in our nation. So, 3 things that are affected by people that binge drink, adolescents particularly: poor academic performance, they take sexual risk, and they are at high risk for having a full-blown diagnosis of alcoholism, an alcohol use disorder. And academically, what they end up doing is totally disengaging. They just disengage. Just think, when you binge drink, you just skunk. We used to call it skunk drunk. They're skunk drunk. That means passed out. They're very drunk. Okay. Poor academic performance, sexual risk. That time I said that, I remember when I started working with adolescents, I worked on a psychiatric unit with adolescents. I was dealing with these girls. They would binge drink, and they would have blackouts where they simply could not remember anything. That's what a blackout is. You drink to the point where you don't remember. And all they could remember are things like just waking up 24, 48 hours later, and they didn't have on clothes. or they might have on, they might be partially dressed. Or I remember one time she said, I didn't know where my panties were. Oh, okay. There was a lot of work to do there. And we did it. We did it. I loved working with them. But all of this was related for these adolescents with binge drinking. That their academic performance was poor, their sexual risk, they got involved in behaviors they didn't even know who they had been with. And they developed, they were well on their way to becoming full-blown alcoholics at 15 and 16 and 17 years old. And academically, they totally disengaged. So what are the chances of them becoming productive citizens in society in the constitutional republic of the United States of America, where we the people want them to thrive? There's current evidence regarding the association between recreational cannabis laws, RCLs, recreational cannabis laws, and binge drinking. Now, let's frame this even more. The states in the constitutional republic of the United States of America that those stars on that flag represent, the states where they have now established recreational cannabis laws, RCLs, those states are, and I know people that have visited, they were like, man, have you been to Colorado? I'm like, no, I never visited there. I've had somebody to invite me there. They were like, man, the smell of pot is everywhere. That's what someone told me. I had 2 or 3 people that told me that. It's just everywhere. Colorado, Washington, Alaska, Oregon, Nevada, California, Massachusetts, Vermont, and the District of Columbia. There was a study that was done by the National Survey on Drug Use and Health. It was a survey, you know, and when I was reading about this, I would say surveys. Where did they get data on 817,359 people? Where did they get that data? 817,000 people. Well, I got to thinking about this. This is Janice. Every time you do that pre-registration, like you go on a doctor's appointment, they ask all kind of questions. Those are like survey-like questions. A lot of things they're asking. It's like they're collecting data. This is when it was like they collect data on some of the things they ask you before you can go back and see the doctor. You're out there. They have to screen you. They're screening you now for different things. Depression, this, that, and the other. Homelessness, do you have enough food? When I go to my PCP, there's a thing I have to fill out. I have to go online and fill out this questionnaire. It's like a survey. They're assessing, but they're getting data too. What did the analysis of the data of 817,000 people reveal? Overall increases in binge drinking in all the states, regardless of cannabis laws. Of those that were 31 and older, it increased. Binge drinking. It just increased. Those that were older than 31. What does this mean? What does it mean? I have seen alcohol. It is so socially acceptable, but I've seen people that have been absolutely ravaged by it. They didn't even know how to pick up a pencil. They couldn't even, their problem-solving abilities were gone. Their brains were eaten up. A lot of them were dealing with, their brains had become mush. I've seen old men that when 60, 65 years old that's been drinking since they were 13 and 14, getting help for the first time. Those men had a presentation that was absolutely pitiful. Their ability to do basic, simple tasks was gone. It was gone. So what should we be doing now? And it's like I'm not trying to crash somebody's party, but somebody needs to be talking about what binge drinking does. There are people that die from alcohol poisoning. They do binge drinking, and before they don't wake up, they pass out from alcohol poisoning. So we need to have discussions with people. We need to be talking to older people. We need to be talking with other people, younger people about binge drinking. These kids having these they got these what do you call them? I'm blocking on the word, but they have these challenges, drinking challenges. And some of them, they do these drinking challenges and they guzzle it down, and some of them pass out and die from alcohol poisoning. So, this is such a passion of mine. And I had someone to reach out to me. And this is what I'm so proud of this person. And they've given me permission to share that. We've talked about supporting one another. And this person, I'm just going to share tidbits of this. They said, I wanted to let you know that the first podcast that I heard you was a couple of weeks ago. So this has been over 2 years ago. And it was about alcoholism, of course. I can talk about alcoholism and drug addiction all day long. And they said, it hit me between the eyes, this person said. They said they were a struggling alcoholic and they were dealing with the first stages of cirrhosis. This person said, I know I was meant to hear that show, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. This person went on to say, this is when I first started this over two years ago. I started in March of 2021. They said, I know I was meant to hear that show, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. I'm scared, and I feel out of control. And I don't know what to do with my life. I've done the rehabs. I've done the detoxing. What I haven't been able to do is solve the underlying issues of why I drink. The last few months have been radically changed in terms of, okay, I'll change my diet. I'll eat more fruits. I'll eat more vegetables. I'll keep praying to God for help. But I don't think he can hear me, they said. Would it be crazy to think that I have a demon? Every time I speak to the Lord, every time I talk to the Lord about what's going on with me, this person said, I hear blasphemous lyrics to songs that I heard or listened to as a teenager. When you've done inpatient treatment and gone through medically supervised detox, I begin to wonder, and this is when you've gone to the treatments, when you've gone through the medically supervised detox, my question is this: did you stay for any additional period of time after you detox? Was there any follow-up aftercare? Did you go to any kind of outpatient treatment program? Did you go to any kind of support group? Did you get involved in any pro-social structured environment, such as church, that's healthy, that's not dysfunctional? There's a lot of dysfunction going on in churches now. And people that are dealing with addiction issues, they get real jacked up. They do. I hear it. I see it. I've seen the effects of it, of getting in religious settings where it's not right. It's the last place that they need to be. If it's dysfunctional, it just is. It messes them up. They're already trying to sort some things out. But you get a healthy church, you get a healthy setting that understands this, you got something going on. even having a support system for them there. That's why I love Celebrate Recovery. I love Celebrate Recovery. I love the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. A lot of people say, well, I don't want to say that I'm alcoholic. Okay, well, don't say it then. But just go for the fellowship. And I tell people, well, if you don't want to say it, just say, I've been, just instead of saying, hey, my name is John and I'm an alcoholic, just say, hey, my name is John and I'm glad to be here. Just don't get bogged down. Don't get bogged down and legalistic about what you have to and don't have to say. This person said, I just left. I left the rehabs, and I never did aftercare because it was the same people that I didn't want to face. Wait a minute. Bingo. Left. You left. That person walked away because of other people. The next less intensive level of care is always a wise pathway. Always, there's a pathway to people's recovery and wellness. This binge drinking is taking people out. When we can encourage people to invest in their lives, it takes time to get clean and sober. Put the visual up there and let's look at that together. This is a spiritual battle. It's a spiritual battle, and it's an ongoing process. And recovery is a process and not an event. I know very few people. I've been in this field in mental health for 44, going on 44 years, and addiction specifically for over 15 years. I have seen it take out my family. I've seen it take out my colleagues. I've seen it take out my friends. I've seen it take out ministers of the gospel, very anointed people. Why did they die? It's because they were dealing with a physiological dependence to a mind-altering substance. That is not a bad confession. That is what's going on in the Constitutional Republic of the United States of America. And we need people. We need our churches. We need our politicians. We need the person that occupies this place right here. We need this person to be keyed in to addiction issues. And so focus on what's going on over there, over there, over there. What about the people that are here? Let's look at the stages of addiction. I bring this up every now and then. It is a process. There's stages of addiction, early, middle, and late. Early, middle, and late. Early stage addiction is recreational. We just having a cold one. No big deal. We're not hurting anybody. We're just fellowshipping. Boy, you get a cold one in you, and you want one. You want two. And boy, can you get up to drinking 90 a day? Yes, I've seen it. But it doesn't start there. It starts with recreational use. And here's something that people don't think about. That buzz that you get, the body, the brain releases endorphins. Endorphins is a pleasure center in your brain. That's what getting high is about. It releases dopamine, it releases endorphins, it releases chemicals. And there are certain ones like methamphetamine. It's like, whoa, whoosh. And they call that the devil's drug. It immediately, meth and cocaine, it's like whoosh. The rush is so intense. And they shake it again. I've heard people, and I'm just talking about what addicts have told me. They said they feel like they're having an orgasm over their entire body and their brain all at one time. And they're just suspended. I heard someone, they say it's like they're suspended between heaven and earth with this most intense feeling that comes from that hit. And they chase it again. They chase it again. Why do they chase it again? They're dealing with a physiological dependence to a mind-altering substance that starts developing. So that's what starts to kick in. You like the buzz. You like the way it makes you feel. And if you have other issues going on, boy, it takes that edge off. So a person can find themselves using more. And they'll end up in middle stage addiction, which is substance abuse. Now, how do we know we're there? How would we know that a person is there? We're talking about stages of addiction. They're dealing with addictive thinking, which equals addictive behavior, which equals insanity. We know insanity Basically, the definition, we've heard it over and over again, is doing the same thing over and over again, but really in your heart of hearts, you're expecting different results, but it never happens. So the addictive thinking, you're thinking about it. Well, what time I'm going to get off? I got to go. I need to get a hit. You're thinking about it. You're planning it. And it eventually connects to what you do. You think it, you do it. You think it, you do it. You're planning, you score, you go get it. You take a break, you take a hit. Addictive thinking equals addictive behavior, which is doing the same thing over and over again in spite of it leading to some detrimental results as middle stage addiction or substance abuse. So what happens? People develop a tolerance. They have to have more to get the desired results. So when you got that recreational cannabis going on and you drink with it, boy, you talking about a high. You talking about a buzz. You talking about an altered state of consciousness that it's just like you can conquer the world. You feel good. You don't think about the ramifications of your choices. And you can find yourself easily over in late stage addiction, which is substance dependence. How will you know you're there? You got early, middle, late. Late stage addiction is tolerance. You got to have more to get the desired results. Withdrawal. If you stop drinking, you feel shaky. You feel tremulous. You have to use to feel normal. Loss of control is self-explanatory. Blackouts is you don't remember anything that you're doing. DTs, delirium tremens, is psychosis. You hearing things and seeing things that others don't hear or see. And body rot is where your body is literally rotting from the inside out. Like this person has shared their testimony. They had first stages of cirrhosis of the liver. I had two brothers. They started off with cirrhosis of the liver. Both went into cancer of the liver. They're both in heaven now. Body rot. So where do we go? Early, middle, late stage addiction. Listen, the bottom line, this addiction is going to lead to jails, institution, or death. You see the blue box there on one side of that bell-shaped curve, or rehab, recovery, and wellness. What is Janice all about? Y'all already know. Rehab, recovery, and wellness, because this thing will take you out. There's always going to be a cesspool churning, as is indicative at the bottom there, of life or death. Everything I do with addiction, if I'm working with somebody, it's a matter of life or death. I don't dress it up. I don't play with it. It'll kill you. It's going to be life or death or sobriety or addiction, because there's always going to be a cesspool of justification, manipulation, and rationalization that's always churning to try to convince you that you can take one more hit. You can go back. And I heard so many alcoholics say, Miss Janice, I got another drunk in me, but I do not have another recovery. So I want to help people to locate themselves. Sometimes you might look and go, whoa. So what is the frequency? What is the frequency? How often are you drinking? What is the intensity? How much are you drinking? What is the duration? How long has it gone on? Frequency, intensity, and duration is very important to know with those who are around us. When you take this recreational marijuana that's going on now and the amount of the amount of THC that's in it now, and you combine that with this binge drinking, man, you talking about a bomb. A time bomb that will escalate. Why? Because you're dealing with tolerance and withdrawal and loss of control and blackouts and DTs and body rot, and you begin getting sick and heart problems and esophageal cancer and brain damage and cirrhosis of the liver and pancreatitis and sexual dysfunction and Wernicke's syndrome, where psychosis sets in. Your brain literally is damaged. So this precious person that reached out to me, I thank God that person saw me when I did my first show. And today, that person has embraced dignity. They are over 1 year clean. To God be the glory. To God be the glory. It's going to be life or death, sobriety or addiction. This recreational marijuana, it's a Trojan horse. It leads to psychosis. They got a doctor that's all she specializes in, is treating youth that are dealing with respiratory issues, heart issues, all connected with cannabis use disorder. There's cannabis-induced psychosis. Guys, this stuff is serious. So when you combine it with binge drinking, it's a mess. Listen, we want our fellow citizens in this nation to be free. God has a path that takes us from destruction to dignity. Get help, reach out, get involved, because God wants to take us from destruction to dignity. Good night.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of From Destruction to Dignity with Janice Pons. Janice's mission is to provoke thought, bring awareness, and point people towards intervention when needed. As a reminder, this show is not therapy, but for educational purposes only. For more information, check out JanicePons.com or follow her on social media.
Education, affirmation, dedication, information, revelation. A new nation. We are God empowered. Strength is ours. Liberty, been set free. Education, affirmation, dedication, information.